Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is Alice.
And I'm Giacomo.
And this is episode 183.
Right on. So you and I haven't connected a whole lot like this past month or two. Just been in the thick of it. I know personally, I've been trying my best. I've been trying really hard to enjoy the summer. Often I find myself dieting down in the summer or just like in the middle of some big work project or whatever, or honestly, just like so grateful that it's not the frigid cold winter anymore that I don't even know what to do with myself. But this summer, I am on it. Like I am finding a way to do fun. But you were mentioning before we even hopped on today to do this thing that it's not like that for you. What have you been up to?
I never typically diet in the summer. And going through this cut right now has been such a struggle. I have been literally waking up every day and just having to have a conversation with myself like, we are in a deficit and we are going to comply today. um, I think it's just because I'm spending a lot more time outside than I normally do. And why is that happening? Because I'm actually going outside to get my steps in the evening. And so trying to find a time when it's bearable outside and then being outside for over an hour, getting like super, super drenched in sweat. And I don't know, it's messing with my head. So maybe I need to start walking on the walking pad again, like I did for during the winter.
I suppose I like to think that because you're prepping, your body does better in the heat, and it does, but in another sense, you're right. Like it can be a little bit fatiguing when you're just not in the mood to get your steps in. You have to get them in, and it's like super hot outside.
Yeah, but it's affecting me all day. Like I'm so miserable that it's so hot. I'm also, a lot of the foods that were serving me in my last cut are not, it's not happening the same way this time. For example, definitely can't be doing soups. That's probably the biggest thing is I was relying on a lot of soups to keep me full before, and now it's like that's the last thing on the planet that I want. And so I've literally simplified everything down to just ultra basic to try and make food just be like on the back burner. But even when it's time to eat, it's like I don't want anything. And I'm not alone. Like several of my clients are like, nothing sounds good to me right now. It all sounds disgusting. And then I'm hungry and I go to eat and I put food in my mouth and it's like, bleh. That happens.
Prep is
It's
a
happening
weird
to me.
place. Yeah, I feel like you wind up getting into this place where it doesn't make any sense. There's no rhyme or no reason. You just have a certain bunch of foods or meals that just work for you until they don't. And then when they don't, they really don't. And you have to like find something else.
Yes.
It's so weird how that works.
My ADHD, I hyper focus on like, these are my meals. And then it's like, nope, no, not anymore. You can never eat those foods again. Not really, but it feels like that.
Yeah. Have you been finding the a way to enjoy something outside of focusing on competition?
Pokemon Go. And
Gotcha.
just time with family. The ultimate reason I'm enjoying that so much is because I play with my brother and my sister and my boyfriend and their significant others and my boyfriend's brother. We all have a little gang that play together, and it makes all the difference in the world. So it's just bonding time with them. And also the Pokemon Go is the reason that I'm walking outdoors because I need to get my steps because you have to walk to play that game. You can't move forward at all if you don't go walking. So it's really like the foundation of keeping everything together right now.
Trying to think what we have going on other than just waiting it out for our big upcoming events that we're traveling for. We have the USA Fit Fest in September, and then obviously Mr. America in October. But
Mhm.
August is pretty quiet, honestly. I think it's just a matter of just coasting. I was I was supposed to go to Sicily with my family, but I don't,
Ooh.
but I'm 99% sure I'm not gonna go. Just got caught up with too much other stuff over here.
Oh.
So yeah, it's okay. But no, but honestly, it's been a really good summer. I cannot complain. But everything you're talking about in terms of things being different, but you still have the same goal in mind, I think that's kind of like the perfect way to just get into what we're talking about today, which is being flexible, but also thinking about when you have to consider whether or not you should pivot, like knowing when to pivot and when not to pivot. When, it's like we often talk about keeping the goal, right? But sometimes you have to really look at your goal and wonder, like, should you be pivoting right now? Um,
Mhm.
and if you should be, how do you be flexible? How are you flexible with that? And if not, like, how are you flexible enough to continue to work towards your goal when things change or you feel different or whatnot?
For sure. And I have this conversation. I think a lot of people, it's happening just because it's summer. I think a lot of people are wanting to give up just because it's summer. Do you experience that with your clients?
Right now, I've have had this repeating thought, and for some reason, to me, it's just reminiscent of when people came out of COVID and everyone had to do everything. I don't know if anyone
Hmm.
else is sharing that same thought right now, but to me, that's what it feels like. It's like the idea that you have to have a good time, you have to do all the things. That's just the general sense that's the impression that I get with the people, with the circles that I run in and the people that I'm talking to and clients and this and that. Like everyone's just like almost feeling obligated to have a good time or just like trying to squeeze every last drop of good out of their day
Hmm.
that they can right now.
Yeah. You've got to go to parties or just, there's more stuff I think even going on at people's work as far as like happy hours and social things. You can't just stay in the house all the time. There's this sense of like FOMO, even if you're not actually like going to the beach or going on a hike, the whole mindset is changed to where people, it's really, really hard to nail anything down as far as like, yes, I will commit to going to the gym and getting sweaty, even though it's so hot outside. And I will commit to making these really tough nutrition changes. Really, I think nutrition is the hardest thing for a lot of people because I know I'm not alone when I say like taste buds change in the summer. You crave like the worst foods even though you're not really a person who eats those worst foods, like even if that's the case, I don't know, like summer foods, like your burgers and your coleslaw and your wings and things like that, all your vegan, you know, we went to the grocery store and there was this big sale on Impossible Burgers and we got several bags of those and it's just been so hard to not have like partake in all that. Like, no, I'll have my Boca burger if I'm going to go have burgers with my family, who my family is not vegan, by the way. But
So what I'm thinking about with all these different examples that you're talking about in terms of you having a goal, your clients having a goal, and these things coming up they're all external stuff, not stuff that's happening to the client, not stuff that you're experiencing, for example. It's stuff that it's not necessarily that they're obligations, they're just pressures,
mm,
social pressures, maybe the expectation to do things a certain way or to have fun or this or that
yes.
um, to the point where like you have to start to second guess whether or not you should continue to pursue a goal the way you're pursuing it.
Hmm. And for some people in the summer, it's not worth it. I don't have the luxury of pivoting at the moment. I made this big commitment and I'm sticking to it. But for some people, if you don't have the motivation and or if you don't have the willingness to make the trades to reach your goals right now, I've talked to a lot of people about having a maintenance phase. It's like, all right, we are more than halfway towards your goal. You have crushed it. It's struggle bus right now. How about instead it's like switch to maintenance, enjoy the summer a little bit more, let's maintain. And when that motivation comes back, along with the cooler weather, along with school starting, all those things, we can pick up where we left off. And I think that's not an option in a lot of people's brains. They think it's all or nothing and they think they have to completely give up. but that's not life, right? You have to, even after and it's usually weight loss, right, that we're talking about. Even after you've hit your weight loss goals, like, all right, now we have to figure out how to maintain. Now we have to figure out how to make this work. And this is really just like practice for that, I think. So I've been really pushing and encouraging people to just, if the struggle is that real, let's go maintenance for a little while. Same thing as a diet break. Sometimes you need a diet break.
Yeah. In one sense, I understand where people are coming from because you can easily take a look at what you haven't been able to do and just be like, well, yeah, Alice, except the fact that my life has been a series of never-ending diet breaks and I haven't gotten to where I want. So stop making excuses for me. And why don't you want me to achieve my goal? Like, I understand that, right?
Mhm.
And I also understand the idea of like, well, I've gotten so far. Why would you ask me to stop doing what I'm doing right now? How will I get started again after the fact? I also get the idea of someone who is very much so driven to achieve, and they're going to beat themselves up or get hard on themselves or get down on themselves if you're legit asking them to stop. Like they're going to take it as you thinking that they can't do it, right? For example, and that's not good either. Like, so having those difficult conversations to help someone wrap their head around things properly and have the right kind of mindset can be very tricky. It's not as easy, it's not as cut and dry as being like, all right, well, hey, you have a 40-pound weight loss goal. You lost the first 20. Stop right now, start in 2 months. And your reasons have nothing to do with how your body's responding. Your reasons have everything to do with your lifestyle. And they're like, yeah, but I could do this. I'm like, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. But it's hard, People think of their goals, like you said, black and white thinking.
Of course, everyone's going to be hard on themselves. It also makes me think of like another time to be willing to pivot is just when a major life change happens, right? Something that, maybe a habit change or some kind of service can't necessarily fix as far as like taking the time off of your plate, right?
Right.
Like maybe getting a new job or going through a move or of course things like a new relationship or having a baby or having a puppy or any of those things, right? Going back to school. I have a client going back to school right now. I'm so excited for her. But it's definitely like, all right, we got one more big ball to juggle. Like figure out how to make the schedule work, right?
Hmm.
Have you ever
Exactly.
had anything like that happen in the middle of your one of your goals, like something just completely threw a wrench in the middle?
I can't think of a time where I haven't had something like that
You
happen.
haven't. Every
Um,
time it happens.
every single time. Life does not wait. Life is going to happen whether you make plans or not. It doesn't care about what you want. So you have to make a conscious choice to keep going or to decide to pivot or to be flexible while you're continuing. And again, it doesn't mean that you're giving up on your goal or failing. It doesn't even necessarily mean you have to stop. It's just start to like consider instead of just keeping the goal with the blinders on because that can come with a set of consequences and you might not like what those consequences are. Plus, it might actually get in the way of you accomplishing your goal if you're just like a diehard and you're just like, I'm going to keep going no matter what.
Yeah.
And how important is your goal to you and how important are your other priorities or whatever else you have going on and how is it going to impact your ability to get there?
And I think you also have to figure out like what can you change that might free up some bandwidth. I mean, with things like nutrition, like what I'm doing as far as just putting meals on like easy button. There's a little bit of meal prep involved, but not much. Relying on a lot more like tofu and fava bean tofu and microwaving my vegetables and everything in the kitchen is like I'm in and out of the kitchen in like 5 minutes. And food is not the center of my life right now. And I think for a lot of people, that's a hard concept. It's a hard thing to do when we live in this very like food society, food oriented society, eating out, hyper palatable foods, alcohol, all the things. I mean, I think that's one thing. Um, I don't know. You have anything to add on to that?
No, I have so many thoughts about all of it, honestly. when you're trying to make a giant lifestyle change, the universe doesn't exactly talk back to you the way that you want it to right away. It's going to take a long time. The people in your world, in the way that you like to do things, all of it, like it doesn't change overnight. So you can be met with a lot of resistance when you're trying to make big changes. And
Mhm.
sometimes you do need to take a breather and take some time to do some housekeeping essentially and see the way that your goal is affecting your life, essentially,
Mhm.
and the way that your life is affecting your goal. Like,
Mhm.
take some inventory, take some like look at what's happening, look at what's going on, and then see if you could do things a little differently, or if you should consider adjusting, like what you're like you said, like a diet break would be a perfect example of something you could do where you're still working towards your goal, just you're giving yourself a little bit of time to breathe, essentially.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there's also things like services, right? Like there's always meal delivery services that would free up a lot of bandwidth. Um, you know, childcare services if you had someone to continue watching your child for like an hour after work so that you had a little bit more time to go to the gym. Um, what else? What other services? And, oh, hiring a cleaner, maybe hiring a maid.
Hmm.
Certain things you can do to like, all right, where can I free up my time here so that I would have more time for me, my stress management, getting to bed on time, making sure I'm eating and staying on plan and getting to the gym, right?
Yeah. Or even getting out of your head. So, because a lot of times you're getting in your own way. You just like dump your thoughts out onto a piece of paper, do like a brain dump or journal a little bit, or call someone you trust and like talk about whatever it is, like your path, your plan, your like how you're doing things, because often that can help you take a second look at what you're doing and being like, all right, well, should I change up my routine a little bit? Should I consider not be my routine? Stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah. I think routines are really, really important in this case. And I think especially like I think of the evening. If I don't have an evening routine, then that's when the cravings and stuff are really going to throw me off. And sometimes it's like you come home from work, you come home from the gym, and there's just like all this chaos. And maybe there's people in your house who aren't eating the same plan as you. Maybe there's people in your house who want to order food or go out to eat. And it's like having a plan and having a routine that you follow and having, say, if they do order food, having something like a diet pizza that that you can make and whip up really quick and feeling like you're still eating with the family, but staying on plan.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing to think about is, well, I guess there's two scenarios I'm thinking about. One is the plans that you know of, right? I have a graduation on this day. I have travel in this month. I have someone to care uh, for the next 6 months, et cetera, et cetera. Should I keep going with my goal? Is it now the right time to be more aggressive? Then I think
Sure.
of the other stuff, the stuff that hits you that is unexpected, right? Like, oh my gosh, like I have to take an emergency day off for something, or I have an unexpected trip where I have to be bedside for somebody at a hospital, or I have a vacation that was planned for me that I was unaware of, and it was just sprung on me that like in a month from now we're going somewhere. Someone made plans for me, and I want to honor that. Like things like that are unexpected, and
Mhm.
what you do when you start to um, think about again your needs. So the first, like you, I'm solution oriented, and the first place I go to is, well, these are v- what I like. Fitness and health are a part of my identity. This is something that I want. So while they're not like basic needs are the closest thing to basic needs for me. It's not sleep, it's not water, but how I eat and how I, and how active I am. These are things that are pretty much, these are essentials for me. So that's where I usually start when it comes to stuff.
Mm.
But you have some flexibility there. Like you don't, as long as you're moving, right? Maybe you can't train 6 days a week or 5 days a week or whatever. Maybe for a week or
I can
two.
train 5 days a week. It's a lot.
Well, meaning you can increase your training frequency, you could decrease your training frequency. You can
Right.
change your training to meet the needs of equipment you do or do not have access to, whether it's remote, whether you need to be at home more, whether you need to be at a gym. You can focus on shifting where you're really not training, you're not lifting much at all. Maybe you're doing lifting once or twice a week, for example. And now because there are hikes that you're going on with others, because there are plans and there it's an active vacation, for example. All kinds of stuff like that, where instead of being like, well, I have my program, I need to follow it this way or else. That would be what I would think of as far as nutrition goes. What are some of your thoughts when it comes to food and doing things a little bit differently depending on different kinds of environments that you're, you know,
Yeah. I mean, not everyone can do this. I live out of my ISO bag a lot of times, packing a lot of food. And I think I like where you're going with like saying you have decisions for how you want to approach a goal and how you want to go for it. You can there there's more than one way to increase a calorie deficit, right? You can increase your activity. You can really like dial in on the nutrition and maybe start weighing your food instead of just using measuring cups, right? You can change your workout times, yeah, and your workout frequencies and different modalities too. I mean, of course, we're always going to push weightlifting, but there's so many different ways that you can move your body cardio wise that, choose something that you love. And I mean, there's always going to be some choices that are inevitable. Like we're almost always going to have to choose to go out to eat less, right? We're almost always going to have to choose to eat more vegetables. Um, there are times when we may have to pack food with us and say no to some social events that are, say, very, very food oriented. Um, saying no to happy hours. And there's different, we don't have to choose all of these things. A lot of us can choose a couple of these things or giving just a little bit and still see results, right? They say that in order to be the most successful on the diet on a diet, on a weight loss journey, and to have your results stick, the sweet spot is like 80 to 90% adherence, right?
right?
You
Yeah.
know, not having hyper palatable foods in the house, that's another choice.
Mm-hmm.
Limiting desserts to, maybe once a week to every other week,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're willing to make a little bit of frankenfoods and make some diet desserts with
Right.
flexible dieting that we're always promoting, of course.
Accepting the things that you can't control. You may not be the one that brings food in the house. There are other people who enjoy other things and finding ways to be comfortable around foods that are not yours. For example, when you're in a different, say like you're not home, for example, finding out ahead of time where you can shop for foods and what kind of food you're going to shop for, packing stuff that works for wherever you're going, stuff like that, without necessarily having your meals laid out from breakfast to dessert, for example. So saying I'm going to eat the same breakfast and lunch every day, but I'm going to leave room for dinner and dessert when I go out, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's compromise there,
Mm-hmm.
depending on your goal and who you're with, for example. It makes things a little more doable.
Mm-hmm.
Or, alternatively, it's like, okay, well, this particular trip, I'm just gonna not, for example.
Not
So
partake. I'm going to skip. I'm going to miss
yeah,
out. Yeah.
yeah,
And
exactly.
then, of course, there are other choices to make, other trade-offs that are not nutrition wise that are going to have a huge impact on your results, like dedicating time for stress relief every day, making sure you're going to bed relatively early so you get at least 8 hours of sleep, right? Um, what else other than like prioritizing sleep?
Well, you have me thinking right now about how when you're super focused on a particular goal, that sometimes you're not dedicating enough time and energy to filling up other cups, essentially. So rather than thinking of it as you're pivoting and you're being flexible and you're not going to get down on yourself for not working toward a goal, think of it as sort of making sure that you're not taking away too much from other areas of your life.
Right.
I feel like that could be a nice way to to like focus on what you're doing in a positive way.
Mhm.
Mm,
Still making time for the important things like your relationships.
exactly. Yeah. And that stuff, ideally it should come back to you tenfold because when you have a healthy support system because you're concerned about all kinds of things, not just your one particular goal, your support system tends to support you back
Mhm.
or understand when there's periods of time where you're doing something that's a little more selfish, for example. You're
Mhm.
less likely to catch pushback for it or to when you can get back to being less selfish and give back to other areas of your life, it'll still be there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about as far as knowing when to pivot, when you either sort of started for the wrong reasons, like
Mhm.
based on what other people think of you, like external goals,
Hmm.
or getting started with unrealistic expectations? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I got all kinds of thoughts. Do you have any specific examples?
Um, well, people thinking they have to look a certain way for summer, I guess, is a lot of things that we get maybe early on in the year as we ramp up for summertime. And then people realize, I don't have any goal that's meaningful to me as far as like, I can't find a way to enjoy myself in the gym. I can't find a way to have joy in this process. Maybe trying to find some kind of health motivating goal, or say if you have kids in your life, wanting to be able to keep up with your kids as they play outside, things like that.
Yeah. I like that a lot, actually. I feel like the kinds of pressures that you get from it being a certain time of the year or looking a certain way for a certain thing, those you wind up finding stuff like that year round. And then before you know it, you're in a never ending perpetual, I need to diet down or look a certain way phase or else.
Yeah.
That's what I think about when you say that.
Yeah. Thinking, oh, we're going to take these family pictures at this wedding in Cancun, Mexico, or so, I don't know. And
Get it?
if I don't look this certain way, I'm going to have to look back on those pictures forever. Like that's not something that's meaningful to you. Taking back control of your health. Uh, you need to want to some degree to make the behavior changes,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And make them permanent. If you
Yep.
don't, then it's not going to be lasting.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I like that a lot, actually. Hello, listeners and watchers. We are so grateful that you tune in as you give us a reason to keep this conversation about living, eating, and training as a vegan in a non vegan world going. Just a heads up to let you know that we are taking a scheduled content creation break from Sunday, August 18th through Sunday, August 31st. This is something we plan on doing twice a year to give us a chance to recharge our batteries and keep the creative juices flowing so that you can continue to get the highest quality and most interesting content possible from us. Please hit the contact button on our site
or email us at veganproteins@gmail.com during this time with any feedback or ideas that you have. We love hearing from you, and we'll be back with a special interview on Muscles by Brussels Radio on Tuesday, September 3rd, and our next exciting recipe on our Vegan Proteins YouTube channel on Wednesday, September 4th. Stay tuned.
What else you thinking? Anything else you want to talk about as far as pivoting goes and being flexible? And
I don't know. I think that's very much it.
I think so too. I feel like we covered a lot of ground. And yeah, I guess like if there's anything in specific that anyone has questions about, just message us about this stuff, because this we think about it all the time. And often you can reach the same goal in more than one way, in more than two ways, in more than five ways. So you might as well go after your goal in a way that is the most practical, most sensible, most achievable, and most sustainable way. It is 110% possible.
Yes.
As opposed to just being like, well, I could do it, and I'm gonna do it the first way that I feel like I could do it because damn it, I'm gonna get to my goal. Well, yeah, that's all well and good, but I mean, you could have done it in a much healthier way.
Yeah. If you if you aren't necessarily willing to give what it takes to be in a calorie deficit and go at it the more traditional way, there's always just approaching your fitness goals from like, let me go at this building muscle and eating at maintenance and changing my lifestyle piece by piece. The results are slower, but in a lot of ways, they're better.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
now we're talking about, all right, I'm changing like fundamentally who I am as far as like I'm going to make sure walking is part of my like day in and day out. I'm going to make sure that the gym is something that's normal, right? There's this video of Arnold Schwarzenegger recently, and someone was interviewing him. They're like, Arnold, why are you still going to the gym? And he's like, that's like asking, why do I brush my teeth and why do I eat my vegetables? You just do it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. Stay in touch with us on all the socials at Vegan Proteins, at Muscles by Brussels. Shoot us a message by going to veganproteins.com and hitting the contact button. You will get a response from one of us, a personal response right away. Once again, my name is Giacomo.
I'm Alice.
I'll talk to you soon.